My name is Gurpreet Kaur and today is Sunday, June 1st, 2014. I was 18 years old. We lived in Ludhiana. Okay, so I was a student of BCom, which is a Bachelor of Commerce, and of course I went to college with a lot of Sikh and Hindu girls. So it was a good combination, and the race conflict was never in the play until the politics started, which kind of pitched one race against the other, and it became more and more noticeable. For me, it was knowing the circumstances, what was happening on the political scene, was important because I remember that year or the year before. We were also studying current affairs. You had to keep a track of the newspapers, what the newspapers were reporting, and what was happening. So all this was happening before the '84 attack happened. That there were random, targeted Hindu murders, people taken from buses and killed, or their place of business attacked, or very targeted communal violence. And it was kind of painted Sikhs in a bad light in the media, and that was very sad. And then also I was big in favor of people, like there was a political figure, Sant Harchand Singh Longowal, and I was really in favor of him achieving something by talking to the central government. So I was really sad on the day the newspapers reported he had been assassinated. So coming back to the '84, this communal tension, the race tension, became more and more strong. And so it became that in the college you would talk to some of the Hindu students and they would say, look what Sikhs are doing. And so there was back and forth. And I very vividly remember when the attack happened, there was a blackout. So there was no news coming from Amritsar. You couldn't hear what was happening. And we would get some snippets of news from the Pakistani radios stations. Yeah, so you knew that there was an attack. There was heavy artillery involved, and the reports of damage to Golden Temple were maybe exaggerated. So we felt like, what exactly happened? My Nana ji, he was a very old-fashioned guy, so he said there's a lot more going on than just attack on the Golden Temple. He said, things are spreading, there's violence against the Sikhs, even in Punjab, and young girls are not safe. And, knowing from the psyche of the Punjab people, preserving the honor of their young daughters and young women in their families is very important. So I remember very vividly my Nana ji saying, if anything happens, be prepared to die at our hands. We won't see you dishonored by somebody. We would rather kill you first ourselves. I mean, we were 18-year-old teenagers. But then also it made you scary, like, wow, that's the extent of the violence happening out there. But you couldn't tell the truth from lie. You didn't know the extent of the truth either.
Certainly.
So it's very scary. And then, slowly things opened up. It must have been a long time, I don't remember exactly how long, before we were able to go and visit the Golden Temple. We were not close enough that we could get first-hand information from somebody who had been there. So once the things opened up a little bit, I remember going there, and there was such a weird feeling going to the Golden Temple then, because you could see blood stains in places. You could see the smoke left behind from the attack, and it was just very, very disheartening, very saddening. And I grew up in a family where faith was very much a way of life, because my Nana ji was very active in the Gurdwara, my mom was very active in the Gurdwara, and every Sunday we used to go to a prominent religious place. It was the Gurdwara Manji Sahib, which is a historical place associated with Guru Gobind Singh Ji in Ludhiana. So, every weekend was kind of saturated with things relating to Gurdwara. So when this happened, and seeing Golden Temple in that condition and the premises in that condition, it was very sad, very, very sad, and it kind of was anger inducing too, because you felt like if you are not safe, if your place of worship is not safe in your own country, then what can you count on? So there was, lot of resentment in the mind of the Sikhs from a long, long time, And being a student who had to study current affairs, we would say, yes, we have been discriminated against. Punjabi resources have been misused. They have been given to other states. Punjab hasn't gotten its due. And then this happened. So this was like, to me, it was the last straw. And then when this happened, after the attack happened, I remember very vividly the day Indira Gandhi died. We were at a private tuition session, and it was a group of some Hindu and Sikh girls. I remember the conversation. When we heard that Indira Gandhi was assassinated, I remember saying I would be very happy if the assassin was a Sikh, because we would have avenged the attack on our temple, on our holiest place. And then there were my Hindu friends in the group, and they said, how can you condone a killing? And we said, how can you condone killing of thousands? And nobody did anything. People were just standing by and making statements like, when a big tree falls, the earth shakes, where's the Indian government then when we need it? Yeah. So we would be very happy if the killing was avenged. And of course, then we found out that the assassins were Sikhs. And I have no resentment that they resorted to that. That was the last resort. And then the riots happened, and many people in our neighborhood, actually one of our own tenants, were people displaced by the riot. And we had a part of the house to let, and they rented that from us. It was a family of 3 daughters, and me being one of the 2 sisters. So it was very interesting hearing first-hand reports from people what had happened in the 84 riot. So this auntie who moved into our home, she was on her way back to Gurpreet, where her husband was employed as a manager in a sugar mill. So she said she was on the train with some Sikh soldiers, and they were dragged from the train, and they were killed on the train track right in front of her. And she was saved by her Muslim neighbor, who happened to have a burqa with him for his sister-in-law, and they let this woman borrow it, and they took her along with them, part of their family party, saying she's one of us. And then also we had family members living in Delhi, and their area came under attack, and of course we were really worried about them too. Many of the people in our neighborhood came after being displaced from Kanpur, from Delhi, from Lucknow, and they slowly set up businesses. But the stories you heard from them, and I think the one that affected me the most was the rapes of Sikh women. I didn't hear any first-hand account, but I just, to this day, I don't feel safe taking my daughters back to India. Not just because we are Sikhs, but just what you hear in the news now. Well, I just see that it might not be that Sikh women would be targeted, but the possibility of communal violence happening and then a minority suffering the most because of it is very real. So our daughters, they know, they have been told that there was politics involved, bringing the crisis that happened, that kind of culminated into the attack on the Golden Temple. They know that the holiest Sikh shrine was attacked and thousands of people died, and then there were these communal riots where I actually call that Sikh genocide. Yeah. So I remember my oldest daughter and we would have the discussion, and in her opinion it's not a genocide because it wasn't systemic, it wasn't on a big scale enough, but that's what I'm trying to refute. Yes, it was systemic because it can't happen on such a large scale within a short span of time. If it happened randomly, I mean, the riot is when you pitch one group against the other and both kind of have a fight. Genocide is where one group goes and attacks and systemically kills. I mean, I have nothing against one race or the other, but I just feel like that whoever happens to be ruling doesn't really look after the interests of ethnic minorities. They're not safe. They haven't been safe ever, and I don't see a possibility that they will be safe.